I'll start with a quick review for this book, Loving What Is. It was a little hard deciding how much exactly I would give this book, but I settled down on a 3, a high 3, almost got a 4. But there was a few things that I didn't really like, and some of them are that 4 question, even the title, that can change your life. I think it's a little too optimistic, and in general, it's a little too generalistic. So everything is just narrowed down to those 4 questions. And I also have it in the notes that sometimes it doesn't really fit the situation. You cannot always ask those same 4 questions. It should be a little more adaptive. So that's one thing that bothers me, or a few of them. But I did like that. I think those are important questions that sometimes should be asked, but it's not always the case. And also one of the things that I didn't like is that it always blame you basically, and you need to change. Even in some situations, that's not gonna, you're not the problem and the other side could be the problem. Again, not always, not at all always, but they always assume, or she always assumed that the problem is with us, basically, instead of the other side. Obviously, it's not always good to try to change the other side, but sometimes that's what's gonna solve the problem. What is good, what this book is, if you are stuck in a situation and you need to love what is, that's when it's really good. And I think some of the strategies or some of the tools provided here in this book are good. Also, something that I really liked about this book is that there's a lot of form of conversations between, hopefully real ones, between her and her patients. And I think that's the best way to learn, is by experimenting and real life examples rather than theory. I really love this, and I think that's the best way. So most of the book is like that, is conversation. She talks a little bit about it before or after, or both, and then most of it is actually conversations, hopefully real ones. But even if it's not real ones, it's still much more beneficial than just learning the theory and trying to extrapolate from that to our lives. Let's see the notes. Side note, the questions always blame the person rather than the other side. So that's what I said before. You always blame us, always blame me. And it's not necessarily the case. Again, I don't think it, most times could be that we are to blame, but it's not always the case. Sometimes there is other things that could be changed and should be changed. Many times we make ourselves unhappy by wanting to change the other person. And sometimes we are the problem. We also like, if only the other person would change, and then it really makes us unhappy. Sometimes we think someone doesn't like us because they don't pay attention to us. But we need to ask ourselves, is it true? Is it true that they don't like us just because they do not pay attention to us? Could it be other reasons? So those are where those questions are really good, because sometimes we tend, or we incline to think that. We need to understand that sometimes other people are not the cause for our suffering. We are. In many situations, they're not the cause. We are, or what we make out of that situation is the problem, or that's the cause for the suffering. No one can hurt me. It's my job. So that's a quote from her. And it's a good quote. No one can hurt me. It's my job. It's almost somewhat funny. It's I'll do it to myself, so no one else can. It's a good quote. Side note, the question whether you are absolutely no is true is unnecessary sometimes, since she goes long ways to show it. Too bad I don't remember exactly that situation or the where she did it, but there was a few times. Is it absolutely true and something that really happened? Is she, like, I don't know, I can give an example. Did she really have cancer? You know, absolutely it's true, that is true, something like that. Or things that it's obviously true, but you can't prove it at the moment because you don't have the scientific tools, for example. Sometimes it's unnecessary, and I think it's like those problems that there is like that pattern she found, and she tried to stick that pattern everywhere. I think it's a little, it doesn't always fit. That's what I said, like in the review part. It should be a little more adaptive in some way. Having preferences is not contradicting to loving what is. We can prefer what we already doing. So that's there's the problem there of having preferences. So there's the question, so if we love in what is, we should not having preferences. It's not contradictory. Loving what is can be what we doing what we already are. We're doing what we're already doing. So it's like more, the way I understood it is more going along with our intuition and just loving what we are doing instead of trying to change the way we do things and then not liking it. So that's sort of the notes. Again, I think it's a good book. I would recommend people to read it, and that's why I said it's almost got a 4. But there is a few things that I didn't really liked, but I think it could, some of the tools are extremely useful and could be useful for some people. That's it. Thank you.